Amazing. Welcome back to the fourth episode of our podcast, Talk Small Business to Me. We have the amazing Ali from Norma May Honey joining us. Just talking all things pollinators, bees, all that fun stuff.
Yeah,
how are you feeling about today?
I'm very excited. I'm looking forward to spreading our mission about pollination powers the planet. So thanks for having me.
Of course. I am so excited. I feel like there's so much I want to learn about bees and pollinators. I feel like there's so much that we all can learn as well. Even when I was deep diving your social media, you just got this fun passion and you're just crazy about bees, and I love it.
Thank you. I am a little bit quirky, and my other girl in pink, Steph and Ocean, we're all a little bit quirky, but we love it because, who's normal nowadays?
Exactly. And where's the fun? Where's the fun if you're not a little bit I was going to say a bit little crazy. Probably not the right wording.
No, I'm crazy. I'll take that. I'm crazy. I'm crazy in love with our pollinators. And spreading that mission. So let's roll with that.
So cute. Keeping on with the pollinators, I want to know. This is my little icebreaker for today. What is your favorite bee-themed pun you have heard?
Ooh, I have heard a lot. You know what? I would probably say my favorite bee-themed pun is when people go, "You're as sweet as honey," and I'm like, "Oh, thank you." Or, what does a bee brush her fur with?
What does a bee brush her fur with?
Yes.
What?
A honeycomb. Yes, I get all of it.
So good.
It's such a dad joke.
But in the best way. I feel like you're in just the perfect career for you can just always have a laugh.
Oh, absolutely.
I was because obviously your podcast is called What's the Buzz?
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, that's such a good podcast name. Are you kidding?
There's actually a lot of podcasts called What's the Buzz? So I was like, oh, it's not as original, but we've made it our own. So, and it's something we really strive to be original. And, if you're not original, where do you drive your inspiration from? So,
exactly.
Yeah.
I reckon we'll just jump right into our questions.
Let's do it.
I really want to know about you and your story. How did you even find yourself in beekeeping?
Okay, that is a great question. I originally come from a dental background, so I worked in dental for over 17 years. So I've worked for major dental corporations, I've studied dental, so it was in my blood. COVID happened, and COVID, I guess, realigned a lot of everyone's values. And for me, during COVID, my father died. He had cancer, and he was in remission. And then what had happened is a lot of halts had happened on scans and testing because of COVID. And so he missed a scan, and then he eventually caught up. And then I remember the phone call to the day. The oncologist rang and said, "Your father's cancer had spread to his brain. He's got less than 2 weeks to live." And basically within that week, my father had deteriorated from walking and talking to wheelchair, not talking. Friday, he was put into palliative care, and then on the Monday he literally sold his lifelong business, and 2 hours later he died. So my brother had taken over that, and everything just in my life just turned completely upside down. And I went, I don't know if my passion's in dental anymore. I don't know who I am. There was lockdowns. I was dealing with a son who was on oxygen. He was only 12 months old, central sleep apnea. So I was struggling with a lot of things in my life. And then we decided to move house because at the time, why not, right? Crazy stuff's happening. So we're like, let's move. I needed to get out into the bush and just be quiet. And as we were packing up, our new house had a lot of stuff going on and a lot of work, and there was a dead tree. And the tree loppers said to us, "Look, it has to come down. It's going to land on your house if there's a major storm." And I'm like, "Yeah, do what you have to do." Thankfully, the universe had given us a really good tree lopper, and he cut it down, and inside he'd found the dead string bark tree was a 40-year-old intergenerational beehive. And he's like, "I have a friend who can save them. And I'm like, yeah, we have to. This is their property. This is they've been here longer than I have. And I just automatically was like, we have to keep them here. And I knew nothing about beekeeping, completely green, and I just went, I need to learn as much as I can. The guy took me on, he mentored me, and that's sort of how I went, I can't do dental anymore, I got to get into beekeeping. And then I met Steph, and everything kind of happened from there. So yeah.
Wow, that's a crazy and beautiful and just like, wow, it's a full story. Like it's
it really is. And it for me, I wish my dad was around to see, because he saw me going through dental and like, what are you doing? You know, I can see that your passion's not there, and you need to focus on your family. You need to focus on your son, because as I said, he was only baby at the time. And I'm like, yeah, Dad, I don't know what I want to do with my life. And then seeing my dad's life, you know, go through that, I realized life's so short. And then COVID and everything else, and I went, life's too short to be stuck doing something you're not passionate about. So that's where it kind of started.
Yeah, and I think it's all like, I think that the beautiful thing is like, as much as there's like hurt and there's like this real sense of like grief around that he didn't get to see that, I think something that's so beautiful about it is that you are now in this space where you get to see like life being created and just like this constant cycle, and then it's also like just a reminder of just like how beautiful life is, and like at the end of the day he would be so proud. And like,
I believe that. And it's funny, at the time, you know, I always, you know, I'm a big believer of life after death and Christian values, but when I read a lot of books and they're like, you know, ask for signs, you know, and I did. I was like, you know, Dad, if you're around, I really miss you. If you're really around, I want to see a giraffe on the back of a truck. Like, that was our thing. And they asked for something specific, and I would see trucks and toys of giraffes. I'm like, no, you're gonna have to do better than that. And it was probably about 2 months later, I opened my daughter's school bag, and inside was a dot-to-dot drawing of a giraffe on the back of a truck. Mm-hmm. And I just knew instantly that was like, okay, he's around. And I now know, you know, like, whatever you do in life, do it with purpose and passion, because life's so short. And just live with no regrets and be kind is my is my mission.
Yeah, for sure. I think there's something to say. And I was also wondering, how did the name Norma May Honey is? Because obviously your name's not Norma May.
No. So Norma May was she passed away last year, 102-year-old grandma. So Norma May, the reason why I named it after my grandma is because how resilient she was as a woman. So, you know, she grew up in country town, Wagga Wagga, and she had 5 kids. And when she had to give birth, she'd walk to the hospital, give birth, and come back and look after her kids.
That's crazy.
Yeah, like she, you know, was brought up in poverty, and, you know, she was just, I remember when she was really unwell after my pop had passed, and I went to look after her, and she was fever, seeing things outside her window, and I went to take her to the doctor, and she said to me, I saw these really ugly looking things at my window. And I'm like, what did you do, Grandma? Why didn't you call me? She's like, I just went outside and told them to go away. And I'm like, 100-year-old lady went outside and just said, just go away. And I went, you are the most resilient woman I know. So that's why I named my business and the bees, because the bees have gone through and they go through, you know, everything needs to be, right? So I'm like, if anything needs to be named, it'd be Norma May Honey. So yeah.
That's so beautiful. It's like a full family affair, you know.
Yeah, it is. And she told me, you know, Alyson, I tell everybody I have a honey company named after me in the nursing home. I'm like, I'm so glad, Grandma. So I knew she was proud. So
that's gorgeous. And she's just like, I'll take it.
Like, yep.
It's mine. Like, I didn't start it, but like,
I'm gonna roll with
me.
that. Yeah. So yeah, at least I can say, like, my grandma, and she loved honey. She absolutely loved honey, and she taught me, like, her brothers would go. She was one of 12, and her brothers would climb trees and get bush honey from the trees, and they would, you know, the methods that I use in my beekeeping is what she would do. So yeah,
that's so beautiful, and it's just like that full, like, 360?
Yeah, I suppose you could call it that.
Yeah, I was going to be like 180, 360. No, it's 360.
Yeah.
It's just working up the term.
My math ain't math.
Oh, literally. Yeah. Anyway, that's why I'm not in mathing.
Yeah, me too.
I'm just going to move this a little bit closer
No,
for you.
you're right.
Just because I want to hear this next point. Thanks
Okay.
for loud and clear. Because I was listening to your podcast.
Yes.
Like we were saying, What's the Buzz?
Mm-hmm.
You talk about being a woman in beekeeping.
Yes.
What has that journey looked like? Because you were talking, there's a lot of sexism in the industry.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to know how you navigated those challenges, because obviously, yeah, it's like a journey at the end of the day. Like, how have you navigated in such a male-dominated industry? How have you managed to thrive as a female business owner, a female beekeeper, like all that sort of thing?
It's challenging. And that's why myself, Ocean, and Steph have really embraced the colour pink, because, you know, we're pink warriors, we've got our pink suits, and we don't back off from being women in the industry. When I first started within the industry, like, I have had a lot of amazing male mentors. Like, there are amazing Steve Fuller from Crop Pollination Australia, AgriFutures, Simon from Save the Bees, Ben's Bees. They are incredible. But I've also had the flip side of that, where I've been at markets and I've had other male beekeepers basically come and tell me that the reason why I can sell my honey is because of my tits, were the exact words. There's other markets I've attended, and myself and Steph have just had some really derogative things said to us that it's just, we're like, really? Like, we lift the boxes. We're lifting 60, 70 kilo boxes. Steph was working up until she was 39 weeks pregnant, saving swarms. I'm climbing 10-foot tall trees, shaking swarms down. We do not shy away from the challenges. And there are other beekeepers when there's swarms who are just like, yeah, we're not touching that. So we're not afraid. So how have we navigated it? We just keep doing what we're doing. That's it.
And there's a fierceness to femininity as well.
Yeah.
And like, I think that's the beautiful message that you guys are portraying as well. And I think there'll be like little girls that come, because you guys do a lot of like market events and stuff like that.
Yep.
And there's a lot of education around that, which we'll go into our next question. But I think there will be a little girl somewhere that's going to be like, wow, like they're so cool.
Yeah.
But it's hard to really change the mindsets of people in that sort of like, people have this perception and and you guys are around to kind of like shake that up. It's like, no, like, and we're doing the stuff.
Exactly. And a big shout out to Jen from Bee Queens, who's in Tasmania, who led the women's world record attempt of most women taken in a bee suit. And that happened, was it January last year? Encouraging women to be in agriculture, but encouraging women that we can do beekeeping. And I actually find, as women, because you need to remember, when you see a bee going from flower to flower, a worker bee is a female. So you've got your drone bees, which are your male bees, and their role is really just to mate with the queen. He might do a bit of work, but a little bit, but he doesn't have a stinger and he doesn't have a honey tummy. So the females do all the work. And when you get into a hive, there's the intuitive of a woman. And there's a lot of, again, great beekeeper, like I've been mentored by a lot of great men who are beekeepers, but there's something about women intuitively working their bees and knowing you girls, like being a woman as well. So, yeah, I just kind of find that, you know, we have that kind of gentle, mothering touch.
Sure. And like, it's not, in no way is it like disqualifying the amazing like male influences that are in beekeeping.
Oh,
and
absolutely.
like you were saying, you have amazing mentors.
Yeah.
But it's also recognizing that how amazing you guys are in that space, and for like to not be overshadowed by what would be perceived as like, oh, they can't do it because they're just girls.
They just go, you know, we can't lift, we can lift.
Yeah, no, literally.
Yeah.
Just like walk past them with the big 60 kilo box, like, shut up.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I remember when the last swarm Steph and I saved, one of Steph's friends pulled over in the street because she lived up the road where the swarm was, and she yelled out the window, "Steph, you are far too pregnant to be doing this," you know? And I said, "Steph, you are the only woman I know who's 39 weeks pregnant and still getting into beehives." Like, she is a warrior, and I just, you know, it's about knowing that we are just as amazing as men. Like, you know, then she gave birth and then bam, she's back in the beehives again.
Wow.
So it's the passion. I think it's the passion that drives us.
Yeah, and it's just like it's almost like you get a taste and then it's just like, oh, like,
yeah,
I've got to get that.
We've been stung by the passion, part of the pun.
Yes, no, I love it. I love it. You have a large focus on education.
Yes.
Why is that so important to you? Like, why is that such a fundamental part of your journey?
Yeah, no, that again, another great question. 1 in 3 mouthfuls of food is contributed to a bee. You like to eat, you gotta like bees. Without bees, you know, there is that famous Einstein quote, to be debated if Einstein actually said it, but, you know, without bees, there would be no world. And that's the truth, because we need, you know, our bees, all our pollinators for, you know, food. And not just European honeybees, I'm talking native bees as well. I'm talking about butterflies, also mosquitoes. People aren't aware that mosquitoes are pollinators. So we need all of our valuable pollinators to be able to eat. And it's just so important that the young people growing up are aware of that. I find that our generation, we grew up with movies like My Girl, and we kind of had this fear ingrained in us about bees. Now, let me tell you something. When you see a bee going from flower to flower to flower, she isn't interested in stinging you. She's actually in the last stages of her life. So when a bee emerges from her cocoon, her cell, her first job, she's born to work, is to clean that cell. And then she'll go on and she'll become like a nurse bee, where she'll look after the bees, and she'll become a mortuary bee. So any bee that's sick or injured or dies, which they don't really like to do in the hive, they will take it out and, you know, pull it apart and take it out of the hive because it's the most cleanest environment. Then they'll become a water collecting bee, and then they'll keep the hive warm, then they'll become an attendee to the queen and a guard bee. So they go through all these roles, and their last role in life is to become a foraging bee. So she has no desire to sting you at all, because she has now fulfilled all of her life's goal to get to this point, and that's to collect nectar and pollen and pollinate. So I want to tell kids, when you see a beautiful female worker on a bee, you could literally go up and smell, not that I'd encourage it, smell that flower, and she just wouldn't care. She'd just go, okay. And majority of the time when you've been stung by a bee is when a bee will work until her wings are tattered and torn and she can no longer fly, and she will be on the ground, and that's majority of the time people have been stung when a bee can no longer make it back to her hive. So that's why I want to tell people they are working so hard for us, our world. So learn to love and respect them. They're hard workers.
Yeah, I mean, I think, like, I never knew that about bees and how, like, they go through their different journeys and, like, all the career changes.
Yeah.
Like, oh my goodness.
Yeah.
But no, like, I think that's such a, like, helpful thing to take note of, because I think even for me, like, before I started looking into, okay, but, like, what's so cool about bees? Like, I feel like I had a preconceived opinion. Because, like, at a young age, like, I was, like, stung by a bee, and, like, and you just kind of, like, think about it and you're like, but, like, I didn't do anything. Like, it was just like, what was I doing? And it was literally like I fell over. Yeah. And, like, the bee was on the floor. Like, and stung me. Which, like,
makes sense.
Makes sense.
Yes. Yeah. And that's the time. Like, you just, if you don't understand it, then you form a fear, right? And it's just something that I say, fear is false evidence appearing real. So when it gets in your head, you're like, oh, I need to fear bees. And then a lot of people have come to our education sessions have just gone, I totally respect bees now. Like, I see that, and I now, you know, the buzz is the voice of the garden. And they're like, I just love hearing the bees now and how hard they've worked to get here. I'm like, yeah, that's it.
It's honestly, I love that. The buzz is the voice of the garden.
Yeah. So, the buzz of the garden. So, the buzz is the voice of the garden. So, yes.
That's beautiful. And, like, a lot of these spaces are, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, are in, like, these market sort of settings. What role have, like, markets and community events have in your business development and, I guess, like, educating people in that space as well?
Yeah, so markets was where originally began. Like I was like, I want to sell some honey, I want to educate, because it's not all about honey. Bees are just not honey, it's about everything that bees are. And so if I can get into markets and educate people on what honey is, like a lot of the time I get people, I can buy that so much cheaper at the supermarket. And I get to educate these people that supermarket honey to Australian produce is so much better. And then I get to engage and talk to the kids. So yeah, markets have been really eye-opening for me, because when you go visit a market, before you get involved in market life, you don't realize how hard they are. You really go, wow, these people set up, they get ready for a market. So I've got one coming up on Sunday. So I know for the week you set up, then you're there early in the morning, you're setting everything up, and then you're working all day, then you're packing up and you're going back home. And then it's just, you have so much respect in the community around markets. You build relationships. Like I'm friends with, the egg people, the gin guys, the Brazilian treats, and it's just a real beautiful community, and we just build each other up. So yeah, the markets have been wonderful for me to spread my message and education.
Excuse the beeping that you just heard. I don't really know what was going on at the same time. Yeah, I think there's something to say about community, and obviously you would have your community in the beekeeping community as it is. I want to know, because you kind of briefly mentioned the difference between supermarket honey and obviously just pure Australian grown honey. Would that be the correct term?
Just Australian honey.
Australian honey.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
Look at you educating me.
I just say good old Aussie honey.
Yeah,
Beekeepers honey. Yeah.
Yes, I love it. Tell us what makes your honey and your products different, and what is regenerative beekeeping?
Yep. So myself and Steph do a different form of beekeeping to other beekeepers. Not to say that anyone's doing it wrong, it's just our method and what we feel we prefer. So we cold crush our honey, so we don't use spinners and we don't use heat knives. So to kind of explain it in layman's terms, so you have your brood box where your queen is and she lays her babies, and then on top you have your super where you get all your honeycomb, or what you call your virgin frames. What myself and Steph do is we rotate our brood, so we're always giving our queen fresh blankets to lay in. So when a frame's ready to be extracted, they'll pop it into their spinner, they'll spin it out, and they're called stickies, and they'll brood place them back in the brood box. We completely crush that frame, give it brand new wax, and then pop it back in. The reason for that is that over time, when a bee emerges from her cocoon, the cell also gets smaller and smaller, so the queen doesn't like dirty blankets, okay? And then again, you need to remember that a lot of the wax will store a lot of glyphosate and poison. We can't contain where our bees go. They'll go 15 to 20 kilometres. So over time it will store that poison. And we like to continually refresh and give the girls beautiful, beautiful, fresh beeswax. So it's always fresh. I've seen it personally. The bees love a fresh frame. They just run to that, and then the queen will even just prefer to lay in a fresh frame. So we just believe it's beautiful, fresh, regenerative beekeeping, better for the bees, better tasting honey, better for us. So yeah.
So how did you kind of get into that? How did you decide that? Obviously, you and Steph, you formed a connection and stuff like that, and she's kind of helped mentor you, correct?
Yes. Yeah.
How did you form your ethos behind regenerative beekeeping as oh no, this is actually something I want to implement?
Trial and error. So I started off with a flow hive when I first started beekeeping, and I was like, this is really interesting, the brood box and the way that, the plastic frames on top. And I just was questioning, I don't know if I like this particular method. I liked the cold crushed idea, but I didn't like the plastic idea, especially when I went into sustainability. I met Steph through an online beekeeping group, and she explained to me she had suffered something called AFB, which is American foul brood, and it really changed her whole idea of beekeeping. So when a hive has AFB, you have to euthanize that hive. It's detrimental to the entire hive. It's very upsetting, and it's from it's like a disease of the bee, and it's the worst. It's a beekeeper's worst nightmare. And she found that by replacing the frame continuously was better for the wax and less chance of getting AFB. And that's sort of her story and the way she got into it. And I really like that method, and I see that it works. And yeah, I just went, I like this, and we just kind of went down that path, and we met a few other regenerative beekeepers. And there's only a handful of us, but it's something we're very passionate about, and just works.
Yeah, for sure. Do you feel like the more people you tell about it, the more people they're swayed to kind of join on the bandwagon, or is it still something that's a little bit taboo?
It's a little bit, I want to say taboo. It's just some people, it's more costly on the beekeeper, if I'm honest. It takes so much time. So we're completely crushing that frame. It's more expensive. Honestly, it's so expensive. So it's a more expensive method of beekeeping. It's more timely. So some commercial beekeepers will get in their hive, take 10 minutes. Yep, wham, bam, done. We're in there for an hour, sometimes 45 minutes to an hour per hive, swapping frames over, going through every single frame, like a fine tooth comb. So yeah, a lot of the time people go, you guys are nuts, but we get it. So
how many hives are you going through like a day? Generally,
it's not so much a day, it's just per season. So as we're in winter, we've wintered down. So it's a really cold day today. So I wouldn't be checking my girls at all.
They go into like hibernation, don't they? Kind of.
We in Queensland, we don't really have a winter as such because the girls are working all year round. So we will have a winter flow. If you're in like really snowy cold, you'll winter them down and they will go into a hibernation. Not so much hibernation, but they keep the hive warm. But yeah, we don't have that, but we just basically check our girls in spring every 4 weeks. You do not want to miss that. Every 4 weeks. Winter, 6 to 8 weeks, making sure it's a really beautiful, nice warm day, because if you're checking them on a cold day, it's detrimental to the babies, and you can get something called chalk brood, which makes the bee babies cold and will kill them. So yeah,
that's really interesting. I feel like because I thought it was something that was like a daily, like you check on them, like
you can. So you have to time it. So Steph runs about 90 hives in all different urban specific locations, but then so we'll go and do each location, and then it's by the time once we've done that, then it's weather dependent. If it's raining, you have to really time weather. It's the most important, crucial thing. So it's literally learning to love the weatherman and hope that they're right, or weatherwoman.
Do you ever like rock up and you're just like, darn it, like and you're just like, but it's not today. Like
there's been days where it's been so hot and we've been in our togs and we just sweat, like we're in our togs under our suits and we are sweating like there's no tomorrow. And there's just days where you're just like, the bees are cranky, the girls are just like, you like feel like just getting through one hive, putting the top on and going, I can't do this today. But that's the best thing about having a partner in crime. You get to do it together, and you do get to go, okay, we can do this. We can get through this. But yeah, I've had my mum hosing us both down after doing a beehive because we've been just sweated everything out. So yeah.
Well, because I was even like, in your togs, like you could just go straight to the beach,
jump in the pool. Yeah.
It's so funny. What advice would you give to individuals wanting to explore beekeeping and pursuing a potential career in it?
It's not for the faint of heart. That's what I would say. It's really hard. It's not an easy role. It's you will love it. You will absolutely love it. The passion of learning from the girls, learning all about them. You will always continue learning about bees. It's a very competitive industry. You will talk to 10 different beekeepers and they'll give you 11 different bits of advice. So it's finding your way, being in tune with the bees, and just, finding a really good mentor. Find an amazing mentor who you click with, and you'll love it. You'll absolutely love it. But just know that it's some days you just really contemplate your life choices. But then when you go and watch the bees and you watch them coming and going, and you know that you're making a difference in this world with, educating and spreading awareness, and knowing that you're looking after the bees, like you are the keeper of the bees. There's nothing that, when you save a swarm, you kind of feel like a superhero. Like you feel like, I've done something. But then there's times where someone will use poison in the street unknowingly and like Roundup, and then you start seeing your bees suffering and dying outside your hive, and there's nothing you can do. That's the days that your heart gets, you just, what is humanity doing? So it's a very challenging industry. That's my one advice I would give.
And what's one piece of advice that you wish you had received starting out as well? Would it be much the same, or would it be something a little bit different as well?
That would probably be much the same, and just follow my intuition. That's one thing I would, just follow your intuition and know that, you're helping spread a buzz with the next generation. So
I love that so much. And what do you enjoy most about being part of the APS community?
The friendships. I really love that I'm always learning something about bees. When I meet someone new who has the same passion, so Steve Fuller is amazing. He's like, I don't know, he's just really he's got some really good dad qualities. And he just educates me. And there's days where I've just had horrible days in the whole house where just like, I feel like I'm just, struggling. And he'll be like, how about you do it this way or do it that? And you're just like, so that someone's been there, they've done that, and they've got, they're always there to listen, and they just understand the hardworking days of beekeeping. So because a lot of the time you get, you just go and play with your bees, and you're like, I'm not playing with my bees, let me tell you. I love the community and the support. There is a lot of support because they just get it.
And I feel like it's so niche. It's so niche, but I guess that's what is so beautiful about the community as well, because everyone's like, we get it. We get how people don't see the full picture of it, and I feel like we've been having this conversation and I'm learning stuff about what it would be like, well, not fully in your shoes, but just the journey. It's not easy breezy, lemon squeezy kind of thing. It's something that takes hard work, and it's a lot of just resilience behind it as well. And I think that's coming back to naming it after grandma, it's that real sense of resilience, and not even resilience just with the bees, but the resilience for you and the community around you to kind of keep.
And there's also making a name, in the beekeeping, you're always going to have your cliques. You're always going to have the people who, it's just everywhere, who don't like you. And it's also, staying true to yourself. That's it. So staying true to yourself, because a lot of people go, regenerative beekeeping, what's that about? But it's hey, this is the way I like to do it, and that's the way I'm going to stick to it. And it's believing in your principles, and not everyone's going to like you, and that's okay.
It's no one, that's in literally every sphere as well. Not everyone's going to like you, and that is okay. I think, where can we find more info and education, and where can we follow along your journey? Where do we go to follow along for you?
So you can follow myself and Steph. So I'm Norma May Honey, and Steph is the Urban Bee Co. Together we're known as the Girls in Pink. We've also got Ocean from Urban Native Bees, and she is our native bee guru. So you can just find us on any of our, we're always collabing and tagging each other. We do Leaf, we do Botanical Bazaar, we do a lot of the Eco Action Festivals. I'm at markets, Cleveland Market, Brisbane, Jan Powers. Otherwise, just shoot us a message. We're always happy to help. Like, all come spring, we'll be climbing a tree somewhere, saving a swarm.
Just look up and then you'll see.
Yes, yeah, exactly.
That is honestly it for all my questions.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for your time. I literally had a blast. I was trying to use a beat pun just then, and I was like, I couldn't think of any.
I had a sweet time.
Oh, there you go. See, you got it going. I need like a full list. I should have like pulled it out and like, see which one was your favorite or something.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me and letting me talk about bees and educating all your listeners about how amazing our girls are.
I'm so excited. Oh, I love it. I'm just going to do a quick little outro. But
yeah, absolutely.
Thank you so much for joining us for this 4th episode. We had a blast. We had a sweet time.
Yes.
Tune in next time. Let us know what you think. See you later. This is Talk Small Business to Me.
Bye.
Bye.